Hello, good evening, and welcome to Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Siambo. Our top stories in the news this evening: NGOCC assures justice for a deceased gang-raped 14-year-old girl. Zambia's only surviving member of the first cabinet, SIKOTA WINA, has died. OILSEED stakeholders call for the removal of value-added tax on crude edible oil. In international news, new attacks in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado drive displacement. In sports news, Copper Queens promised an upward of 360,000 kwacha each for the 2022 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Once again, the news in detail. Veteran politician and Zambia's only surviving member of the first cabinet, SIKOTA WINA, has died aged 90. Mr. WINA died in the early hours of Wednesday at the University Teaching Hospital, where he was admitted for an illness. And Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema has described Mr. WINA as a freedom fighter and proud patriot of Zambia who should be remembered as such. Meanwhile, in an interview, United National Independence Party UNIP President Trevor Mwamba says it is important to teach the legacy of Zambia's founding fathers to the current generation, stating that most of them do not fully appreciate it. Acting Secretary to the Cabinet Patrick Kangwa, in a statement, confirmed the death of Mr. WINA, 90, at the University Teaching Hospital UTH in the early hours of Wednesday morning. More in this report.
It is the close of the chapter for the cabinet under Zambia's first Republican President Kenneth Kaunda, as veteran politician and freedom fighter SIKOTA WINA has returned to sleep with the country's founding fathers. The demise of Mr. WINA, 90, who was born on 31st August of 1931, in the early hours of Tuesday morning at the University Teaching Hospital UTH, has been made known in a statement by Acting Secretary to the Cabinet Patrick Kangwa. President Hakainde Hichilema, in a statement on his official Facebook page, has described the demise of Mr. WINA as a loss to Zambia, stating that he was one of the country's founding fathers, freedom fighter, and a proud patriot. Meanwhile, Camnet TV spoke to United National Independence Party UNIP President Mr. Trevor Mwamba, in which party Mr. WINA served, who had this to say.
First and foremost, I think it's to put the matter in perspective. He was very young. He was the youngest cabinet minister in the first cabinet. He was in the Legislative Council, must have been about 31, 32. As Minister of Health. He also became Minister of Local Government and Broadcasting and Tourism. So he did a lot in that regard. But I think he was passionate about the development of the country. But he sacrificed a lot.
He has also lamented the lack of appreciation of the country's founding fathers in today's generation, stating that their legacy should be upheld.
Generation, in fact, I would say from 1991 to say 2021 last year, what I call the 30th generation, have no idea, no inkling of the contribution of our founding fathers, such as Mr. SIKOTA WINA and others, what they did for the liberation of Zambia under UNIP, the United National Independence Party. These are people who sacrificed themselves for the betterment of the country. They used their training, and Mr. SIKOTA WINA trained in the United States, Los Angeles in California, and he came and gave his gifts for the good of the country. So our generation, they need to learn about who these founding fathers and founding mothers were, what they did, what they sacrificed, and emulate their steps. These people were selfless, you know, they were there to serve the country and not themselves, and not to benefit from the resources of the country, but to ensure that the resources were used for the betterment of everybody.
Mr. WINA was the country's first Minister of Health and also served in various portfolios, such as the Minister of Local Government and Housing, as well as Minister of Information, Broadcasting and Tourism. The funeral will be held at his house in Mimosa, Chilanga District. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The non-governmental gender organization coordinating Council NGOCC has assured the family of a gang-raped 14-year-old Beatrice Mulayo, who later died in February this year, that justice will prevail. Speaking when they visited their aggrieved family Wednesday, NGOCC chairperson Mary Molenga says it is unfortunate that the issue was not taken up seriously by police officers, despite the crime having been allegedly committed and the soul lost. Ms. Molenga assured the family that she will involve the highest officers in the country to make sure that the deceased gets justice and the perpetrators get punishment, in order to send a warning to would-be offenders. On 26 January 2022, Beatrice Mulayo of Chief Chisompola's village in Kafue district was gang-raped by 3 elderly men and later died due to the injuries. More in this report.
5 months down the line, the case of Beatrice Mulayo, a 14-year-old girl of Chief Chisompola's village of Shantumbu in Kafue district, Lusaka province, who was allegedly defiled by 3 men, has gone cold, leaving the family question law enforcement agencies. At only 14, Beatrice's life was cut short following the alleged incident that occurred on the 26th of January 2022. She was defiled by 3 men. It took some time for her parents to find out that her vagina had started rotting from wounds and fistula. She was taken to the University Teaching Hospital, but it was too late, and she died on the 2nd of February 2022.
Dr. Jenwala, she's the one that did everything. She explained to us, to say, Anastasia, the child was in pain. The child's vagina was really bad, and one of her labia was cut. So she explained to us, she told me that my results were passed by Monga, but he doesn't know where he took them.
It is reported that after her death, the 3 suspects were first charged with murder and stayed in police custody for a good 2 months, awaiting court appearance. However, they were released on bond after the charge was reduced to manslaughter, a thing the family claims that the 3 suspects connived with the officers.
Ati banyamate bali pano tibasunga bati banyamate banavomera mushe maningi nga kusanga kwa mene benzo muchitava opuamuzi bako na chawa sinizi wako ati sinizi wako wanatipeleka ba polisi ndiye bakambaga tizi wako wanatipeleka manje mazo kuli ba parents benzi banabwera kuno kuchani ku polisi ba parents babwera abo babwere baende ba parents bajabana ni kubwera kuyamba kukana. Despite
having lost a child, this family now lives in fear as family members of alleged suspects are now harassing them. The non-governmental gender organization coordinating council, NGOCC, has now come forth to help the family get the justice that it seeks. The organization board chairperson Mary Molenga has assured the family that justice will prevail in the case.
If the police, who are supposed to be protecting our lives, are the ones who are endangering our lives, then I don't know where we are going. Then it's very unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate that the people who are supposed to be protecting us are the ones who are putting our lives in danger. This is a case that should be followed up. The perpetrator should be brought to book, not imulus and then your lives are now in danger.
According to the police, the 3 suspects were released on bond on instructions from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, who say they are still starting the docket of the case toward the offense of manslaughter. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Association of Women in Mining has urged women and youths in Kalala area of Central Province to identify mining areas so they can be helped to acquire mining licenses and equipment in order to engage in mining activities. Speaking when they handed over 25 cooperatives certificates to deserving women and youth cooperatives in the area, Association President Grace Njapao said it is high time that women and the youth shifted their mind to registering cooperatives for the purpose of receiving fertilizer under the FISIP program. Chisamba District Commissioner Royd Kaleka has advised the cooperatives to quickly affiliate themselves with the association so that they can be helped to legally have access to Chinyongola gold mine, which currently has a lot of illegal mining activities taking place. More in this report.
They sang a song of jubilation, knowing that they are a step closer to becoming miners and benefit from the country's natural resources. These are women and youth cooperatives in Kabangalala, Kalala and Situmbeko area in Chisamba district of Central Province, who Wednesday received cooperative certificates from the Association of Zambian Women in Mining. And speaking during the handover of the certificates, ASWIM President Grace Njapao has urged the cooperatives to identify mining areas where they will be assisted by the association to acquire mining licenses, as well as support them with machinery in order to venture in mining activities.
We will have to identify an area for your mining business. You have to find an area yourselves. The youth and the women. Stop depending on the FISIP. You will be helped to acquire mining rights by ASWIM.
And Chisamba District Commissioner Royd Kaleka says a lot of illegal mining activities are taking place at Chinyongola gold mining site in the area, and has advised the 25 cooperatives to ensure that they take advantage of the association to help them secure mining rights at Chinyongola gold mine.
In our district, we have already a place called Chinyongola, where people are doing a lot of illegal mines. May I appeal to you, madam, so that these cooperatives, we have handed certificates today, be in the position of affiliating first to you, so that you can negotiate papers for them to start mining.
Meanwhile, Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprise Cooperative Inspector Joan Chaongopa and the Agribusiness Officer Boniface Chishimba encouraged the cooperatives not to only form cooperatives in order to get FISIP, but think of other business ventures.
I should confirm that in Chibomba district we have over 1,000 cooperatives, but in Tuayambo kulanda pafyo balechita nangu pakulanda tuchita identify cooperative village tabuino. I think all of them in Chibombo district can even qualify to be deregistered pantu tapari efyo bachita.
And senior headman Situmbeko says many people did not believe that the program would be a success and that the works of the association can never go unnoticed.
There's one thing, Chindabona. Meeting kaitana kumana, we have a tendency to share meeting. Oh no, please, let's change. Change is inevitable, not one minute. We have to share now to be very involved.
And one of the cooperative members says she is happy that the cooperative has helped them to acquire certificates.
people to amaga in 210. Let's us do something so that to be as a group. So to agadi bunga bunga, ukalansa ma women wenzuma, we amuzezwa guti, but pema certificate mahalubende.
Prudence Chota reporting for Camnet TV News.
Governance Elections Research Services GEARS Initiative Executive Director McDonald Chipenzi says the Patriotic Front PF is not under threat of deregistration, even if it does not hold a convention to choose a party president. In an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Chipenzi states that Zambia's democracy is, however, under threat if the biggest opposition political party, the PF, does not have strong leadership to offer checks and balances to the current administration. Meanwhile, political activist Dante Saunders says the weakening of the opposition may be a threat to democracy, which needs multipartyism to thrive. More in this report.
Zambia affirmed its stance as a multi-party democracy in 1991, which means that the political system allows for the existence of numerous political parties, all competing for votes from citizens through their manifestos. Since the introduction of multipartyism, the country has always had a strong opposition force, the likes of the Patriotic Front PF and the United Party for National Development UPND. The 2021 general elections have, however, brought questions on whether the country's democracy will survive, as the PF, which came second at over 1.8 million voters, losing to the United Party for National Development UPND at over 2.8 million voters, says it is now struggling to survive. This follows the failure of the PF to hold its convention, which was slated for June of 2022 due to financial challenges. Governance Elections Advocacy Research Services GEARS Executive Director Mr. McDonald Chipenzi says while the PF is not under threat of deregistration, even if it does not hold a convention, the lack of a leader in the PF poses as a threat to democracy in the absence of a strong opposition. The Democratic Party DP, which came third in the 2021 general elections, had a distant vote of 25,231, representing 0.52% of the total votes cast.
I think the biggest misunderstanding is that the vacancy at top level for the PF is creating misunderstanding that PF has not complied with the constitution. But the constitution is very clear that there should be internal elections, which the PF held ahead of the 2021 general elections. So the team that they have is a new team. The only challenge for them is that when a leader steps down, they are supposed to go to the convention. But that has nothing to do with a Republican constitution. It's their own constitution that demands that. 9 months down the road, they are failing to get good marks. In Lozi, they say noto. They are getting noto. Where are the people that were supporting them? Where have they evaporated to? So they really need to find a leader, because when you go for the campaigns, you put your leader in front, isn't it? Your T-shirts are written, vote for me and vote for my president, because my president has A, B, C to the vision. Now the PF has nothing. And we told them when they were contesting in KWACHA, your candidate in KWACHA is an orphan. Look for somebody, look for the president.
Meanwhile, a political activist, Mr. Dante Saunders, has also added his voice.
This is how you're going to build on democracy. And we also, as a country, we need a strong leadership in opposition. A strong leadership. And I can think of, people like the one who's Fred Membe is coming up very well. He's articulating himself very well. And he is doing the right thing. He's on the ground. This Madam Kateka, she is doing also very well. They are on the ground. These people are on the ground. They are working on the ground. They're not just blabbering away.
A strong opposition is necessary so as to keep an administration to account for its promises and preserve democracy. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
The Lusaka Magistrate Court has restrained a Chinese national from continuing to beat and threatening to kill his Chinese lover, whom he has fathered a 7-year-old child with. Magistrate Mboyawana Simvula has also ordered Huang Yawen to vacate the house in Kalundu Township, shared by the couple, until such a period when the case would be concluded and judgment delivered. Ms. Simvula has, however, advised Yawen and Yin to report back to the court should they decide to reconcile before the case can be disposed of, so as to allow her issue an order. Yawen appeared in the Lusaka Magistrate Court Wednesday on a charge of threatening violence against a fellow Chinese. The International Monetary Fund (IMF) Deputy Managing Director Antoinette Saye says she is impressed with Zambia's economic performance in the first quarter of 2022. Speaking at a media briefing held in Lusaka Tuesday, Ms. Saye says Zambia has seen a reduction in its inflation rate and economic performance, a sign that the country is heading in the right direction. Ms. Saye says she is confident that the meeting Zambia will be having with its creditors beginning Wednesday, the 16th of June 2022, will bear positive fruits. And Finance and National Planning Minister Dr. Stumbeko Msokotwane says it is unfortunate that the debt restructuring process has taken longer than anticipated, but says he is confident the meeting will yield positive results.
Some of you have been saying, you said you're going to deliver this by end of June. I have no apologies to make about that, in the sense that this was an inspired date. We say to ourselves, by this time we want to get this out of the way. It was an ambitious one, given where we are coming from in the past. The fact that we have missed that date for no fault of our own, that should not be the main story that we should be talking about, to say they've missed the target. The main story now should be, look, there are difficulties not caused by themselves, getting to debt relief, but the good news is that now everybody is on board to start talking about debt relief.
We are very encouraged by the fact that the creditors are now going to be beginning their deliberations beginning tomorrow, and we will continue to encourage the creditors committee for Zambia to work expeditiously to come to an agreement on the nature of the debt relief they will provide Zambia to be able to allow the IMF to then go to its board. We will work very diligently on our side to make sure that once those creditor assurances are in place, without which we cannot go to the board, once they're provided, we will speed up and make sure that that program is approved as soon as possible.
Some restaurant owners in Lusaka's Baoleni and Nyumbayanga compound have complained of high cooking oil prices in the country, a situation they say has affected the effective running of their businesses. And some oilseeds stakeholders have appealed to the Ministry of Agriculture to consider removing value-added tax on crude edible oil, as it is an essential commodity in the food basket. National Traders of Edible Oils Association of Zambia Chairman Aubrey Chiwumba says the country has an attainable capacity to stock local crude edible oil products, but lacks structures to strengthen the production of local crude edible oil products. More in the following report.
In opposition, now Republican President Hakainde Hichilema made pledges to lower the cost of doing business and the cost of living once in power. But 10 months at the helm of power, the cost of living in the country is high, owing to various challenges currently being faced. Some restaurant owners in Lusaka's Baoleni and Nyumbayanga compounds have explained to Camnet News that business has slowed down due to the higher pricing of commodities such as cooking oil. The restaurant owners have therefore appealed to the relevant authorities to come to their aid and look into the pricing of the commodity, as it is an essential tool of running their businesses.
Tulefua wapose kwa manola
pa ma 42 maika ngono kachaka boto kachaka salad kaipa 34 then kachakena mkasize kokonga pa 44.
The National Traders of Edible Oils Association and the Crushers and Edible Oil Refiners Association SIDORA chairman, Aubrey Chibumba, is of the view that proper structures should be put in place in order to harmonize the pricing of the commodity.
That our costs of production are not an issue. What we have is a structural issue. So yes, for us, we continue to lobby government to request that.
Meanwhile, Mount Meru Group Zambia Managing Director Damesh Patel says the commodity will stabilize once the value-added tax VAT is removed on cooking oil.
Pleading with the government to consider removal of VAT on cooking oil because it's a necessity product in the food basket. So if VAT can be removed, that would help us reduce the price of cooking oil by at least 16%.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Zambia and the Republic of Kenya have signed memorandums of understandings in order to enhance tourism partnerships between the two countries, shared common interest in trade and investment, integrated peace and unity for development between the two nations. The signing ceremony was witnessed by the two heads of states at State House in Nairobi, where President Hichilema is visiting. Among the MOUs signed are Enhanced Zambia Institute of Diplomacy and International Studies, ZIDIS, and the Foreign Service Academy Institute of Kenya, FSI. Others include promotion of cooperatives between the two nations, veterinary and animal health, and Zambia Development Agency with Kenya Investment Authority. And President Hichilema says he is confident that Zambia and Kenya will, in these areas, among others, including the existing friendships, lead to the benefit of both the people of Zambia and Kenya. You're watching Camnet Television News. We'll take our first commercial break. We'll be back with more news after this break.
I've always been passionate about moving forward as fast as I could. Even as a child, all I ever wanted was to take first place at everything I put work towards. Whether I'm on the track or in the lecture room, my goal is to come out on top.
Growing up, we were always called Mafasho. You could say this paved the way for who we would become. We owe our success to our understanding of the power of storytelling, understanding what people connect to in order to give them what they desire.
We have always been passionate about people and honoring their stories. Our learning experience gave us the knowledge to channel our creativity into a business.
In order to start any successful journey, we must have a place to start. Even if that means we keep our mental image in focus as we become the inevitable solution to society's inevitable problems.
Which is why we all start our journey here.
Team, the trajectory of the business looks very positive, and it looks like we'll be able to launch the...
She has so much data.
Mom?
Yes, baby?
It says here, global warming and climate change is caused by the pollution from careless activities of human beings.
Wow!
Son, do you know I can turn my phone into a TV remote?
How's that possible?
It's so easy. Check this out.
Be smart, be fast with mega data from Zamtel. Get your 15 GB mobile data for only 100 kwacha, 30 GB mobile data for only 200 kwacha, and your 70 GB LTE data bundle with free Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Visit our Facebook page, website, or service centers countrywide for more information. Zamtel, your digital lifestyle partner.
Welcome back. We continue with the news. Media Owners Association of Zambia, MOZAMBIQUE'S, has opposed the final draft of the Zambia Media Council bill, which the Media Liaison Committee has submitted to the Ministry of Information to be taken to Parliament. Speaking to the media, MOZAMBIQUE'S President Evans Banda says the association is opposing the draft bill because it has noted a number of clauses that will not develop the media space in the country. Meanwhile, Camnet TV chairman Pastor Moses Chuluba has also opposed the bill, adding that the media houses conduct their own self-regulation. And Newsdigger's editor-in-chief Joseph Mwenda says it is shocking how the statutory self-regulation bill is moving with lightning speed when the access to information bill has been there for years is still dormant.
If you are trying to create a law, there must be a problem that you are trying to fix. We are rushing to talk about media regulation and discussing whether this document is done well or this document is done badly, what should be included, what should be removed. But we haven't answered the initial question. What are you trying to fix? What problem exists that you are trying to resolve? For us as the media practitioners, I think that should be the main question we should be asking. We have heard people say, well, there is lack of professionalism in the media. Well, that's a general claim. Point to an issue.
Since I started the media, they've never visited me. They've never contacted me. I don't even know them. I don't even know who sits on the committee. Why should somebody come now and say we want to regulate Camnet? Should I start speaking in Nyanja like my brother Shawaye? I think it is not fair when we are doing these things and coming up with such thoughts, visit the media houses. Like my brother said there, nobody has ever visited Camnet to come and tell us or explain who they are and what their agenda is. So to come and tell us, start regulating yourselves. Do they know that even in preaching, once you say something which is against the government, from the pulpit, you hear people saying, Seluka Monsapat. Even from the pulpit, we regulate ourselves.
Traders at Lusaka's Nyumbayanga market have bemoaned the lack of electricity at the market, which has affected the operations of their businesses. Traders talked to have told Camnet News that the Lusaka City Council, LCC, owes ZESCO undisclosed amount of money, which has led to traders paying extra whenever they intend to make electricity token transactions. The traders also say the installation of prepaid meters in the market is expensive for them to afford, citing that the prepaid meter is meant for the industrial companies and not a market. But ZESCO spokesperson Henry Kapata, when reached for a comment on the matter, advised the traders to form groups when buying electricity tokens according to their usage of the commodity. More in the following report.
The day seems to have started for these traders at Lusaka's Nyumbayanga market. However, questions of how their business will forge ahead without electricity remain unanswered. Traders at the market explained that they have been subjected to buying electricity token unit at an industrial price, alleging that the installed prepaid meter at the market is for an industry company and not a market. They told this journalist that Lusaka City Council owes ZESCO money, to which 40% is deducted every time they make an electricity token payment. The traders say the inability to purchase the electric token has left the market without power and affected the running of businesses.
That's quite a long time. So we are asking them to come here, probably talk to ZESCO and lower the rate. Can you imagine? We are buying tokens at the same rate with Pick and Pay and then these are the big malls.
The industry of prepaid is very high for the marketeer.
They further explain that the lack of electricity at the market has not spared the ablution blocks.
The gate go 700.
Before 14 hours, malaika focus.
So it was really fair.
But when reached for a comment, ZESCO national spokesperson Henry Kapata says the traders themselves with the responsibility to categorize themselves in line with their electricity usage. He indicates that the traders only pay to Lusaka City Council and not ZESCO. As such, the traders should meet their obligations.
We literally have nothing to do with the council, but with the people that are using the electricity at the market, hence cutting them off.
Meanwhile, Lusaka City Council Assistant Public Relations Officer Thelma Mbewe gave an indication that the council's housing department is on top of the issue and will soon update the traders. Nelson Zulu. For Camnet News, Lusaka.
Southern Africa AIDS Dissemination Service, SAFAIDS, has proposed that government should consider prioritizing sexual reproductive health among adolescents as a key driver to social and economic sustainability in the 2023 national budget. Speaking during a stakeholder presentation at Parliament Wednesday, SAFAIDS Executive Director Crispin Chomba says a large portion of the country's populace are young people. Hence, their social well-being should be given priority. Meanwhile, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO team leader Alice Saili has submitted that children should have full access to quality education, adding that governments need to show commitment in fostering a safe and responsive learning environment for young people. More in this report.
Which was under a section of health and nutrition. And we really submitted that in terms of being smart or specific, in terms of prioritizing SRH, we did find that missing, and I think that's the basis for our submission. We really think that that needs to be prioritized, given that it's a serious issue that, you know, sometimes you read everywhere in these strategic plans, there are all these statistics, but yet, when you now try to look at strategies, what strategies which are posted and which are really implementable, we don't see.
Speaking at the same event, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organizations, UNESCO team leader Alice Sahili says children should be given full access to quality education as a means to combat the further spread of HIV and AIDS infections among adolescents in the country. She says the figure of 4,000 weekly infections of HIV and AIDS in sub-Saharan countries is alarming and should be managed properly.
And that's why we're proposing that it's actually included in the 8th National Development Plan, because we do know that ignorance cannot be a foundation for wise behavior. If they don't know, they'll not be able to act positively, understand the consequences. So information is quite important. But this information will also drive the young people to then access the services, because they understand themselves well, they understand the consequences of certain actions. So because here it's about this young person understanding themselves and also the environment around them. So that's why it's really, really important to have that information. But for it to effectively work, we need to have other pieces in place, and that is why we're talking about having a multi-sectoral approach. So we need MPs on board.
Zambia has recognized the significant impact that adolescents have on the country. Hence, the 8th National Development Plan sets out Zambia's strategic directions, development priorities, and implementation strategies for the period of 2022 to 2026 in many sectors of the country. This plan is a successor to the 7th National Development Plan that was implemented over the period of 2017 to 2021 and the 4th in the series. Messi Chanika reporting for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Chama North Patriotic Front Member of Parliament Yotamu Mutaya Chalo has urged government to urgently amend the 2022 Constituency Development Fund guidelines in order to expand the utilization of funds to tertiary education. Speaking when he raised the notice of motion in Parliament Wednesday, Mr. Mutaya Chalo says government should consider amending the CDF guidelines on the utilization of secondary school building and skills development bursary, which amounts to 20% of the total CDF allocation. He says the aim is to allow CDF to consider awarding bursary to vulnerable children in constituencies who intend to undertake professional courses.
Allow the Constituency Development Fund CDF to consider awarding bursaries to vulnerable children in constituencies who intend to undertake professional courses which are demand-driven in our constituencies, such as teaching and nursing, among others, offered by TVETA accredited institutions. For example, if you take a look at the Evelyn Hall College here in Lusaka, which is TVETA accredited institution, courses such as teaching are offered. But meanwhile, teaching is not among the recommended courses considered for bursaries under this guideline. Madam Speaker, allow me to emphasize here that my proposed amendment is not meant to take away the intention of the executive of empowering local people in our constituencies with skills development. However, my proposal is meant to help students seeking to pursue professional courses to be considered under these guidelines only if there's excess funds after offering bursaries to secondary school boardings and skills development. Madam Speaker, as I move this motion, I take into account the fact that the Higher Education Loans and Scholarship Board, which was established by the Higher Education Loans and Scholarships Act number 31 of 2016, took over the administration of student loans and scholarships. I am aware that the board currently
Momba constituency member of parliament in Monza district of Southern Province, Chibolo Chatila, has promised a better livelihood for his people under the United Party for National Development, UPND. Speaking during a victory party aimed at thanking the people of Momba for voting him into office on the 12th of August 2021, Mr. Chibolo says indicators such as the enhanced free education policy point to better times under the current administration. He has urged the people to participate actively in the Constituency Development Fund CDF so as to bring the much needed development to their area.
Twagajjana bantu bangi bagajireka kubereka mu hulumende bagajembala bagagatala temubayira tumalitaalizi bonse gino gindi hulumende ya UPND yaganjirira bonse yagabatani yagabapadela utalijeja jali ujitika muntu ojitali tasunu wabana kwa indali 20 years ujisasa malagwe bamwinyi ndo gindi bagaha malita batani tababoni jandabe uti mubone kwamba uti hulumende ya UPND ili serious autani akumuberegera ibali bibonse jino jindi kuti mwalanga bakajita supply mabopu jindi jaindeji usikaje jino jindi kujina mulimi ngoma kwamba tanape kwa mali pepe bonse bakachani bagahola for the first time when hulumende ya kuti jasika jindi hagainde amba kuti katubapa bantawa mali twachani twawapa dali kwamba makanselers kuno walunga kuola byo kuti makanso aberege yonse mula yabali 6 months behind jino jindi lo mwaka kumwezi ukanso Unyina kanso ya wambo timala equalization fund tatani tasi. Inchi tonja umujisi amu babu ya makanselers. Wambo tinomalaya. Gayaka hi want to 20% ibola liliguli ibola ligu ogun.
We'll take our second and final break. We'll be back with international and sports news.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
In international news this evening, at least 7 people have been killed, 4 of them beheaded in recent jihadist attacks in northeastern Mozambique. Violence that is now affecting areas previously relatively untouched and causing massive new displacement. According to the UN and the NGO Save the Children, on Tuesday, 10,000 people have fled their homes in the past week. The country has been plagued since 2017 by jihadist violence that has already killed nearly 4,000 people, and according to the NGO ACLED, and forced about 800,000 people to flee. For more in international news, here's a roundup.
At least 7 people have been killed, 4 of them beheaded in recent attacks by insurgents in northeastern Mozambique, violence that is now affecting areas previously relatively untouched and causing new displacement. Until June, the fighters had been operating mainly in the far northeast of the Cabo Delgado province after being driven out of key cities by Rwandan, Mozambican and Southern African forces. Save the Children says a series of attacks took place in the district 45 kilometers from the port of Pemba, the provincial capital, in early June. The area had been previously unaffected by rebel violence. The charity says 10,000 people have fled their homes in the past week. The country has been plagued since 2017 by Islamist militant violence that's killed nearly 4,000 people and forced about 800,000 people to flee. The deployment last July of Rwandan and regional forces allowed for the return of relative stability to the area.
Violence in Sudan resulted in at least 145 dead and over 180 wounded this month, according to the United Nations. The tribal clashes occurred in West Darfur and South Kordofan provinces and were described as the deadliest in recent years. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, the violence erupted last week between 2 tribes, one Arab, the other African, over a land dispute. The clashes took place in the wake of October's military coup that marked an end to the country's short-lived transition to democracy. According to OCHA, the fighting subsided following the deployment of troops to the area. Authorities also declared a nightly curfew last week, but tensions remain high. Longtime autocrat Omar al-Bashir was removed from power in April 2019 and has been in prison in Khartoum ever since.
When I first announced the policy, I said it would take a long time to get going, and there would be plenty of legal challenges, there would be bumps on the road. We think it's a sensible partnership we've set up with Rwanda. Yes, it may take a while to get working properly, but it doesn't mean we're not going to keep going.
It's a key part of our strategy for tackling the appalling people smugglers who are trading in people's hopes and dreams and in many cases costing their lives.
People are forced to take these routes because there are so few routes of travel into a country like the UK. So what the government does with their border policies is they fuel the business model for people traffickers. So what they should be doing, instead of sort of playing to their base and trying to deport people who simply want to claim asylum here, they should be opening up more safe routes of travel for people to get here so they don't have to risk their lives.
It's now time for sports news. And now in sports news, the Copper Queens have been promised an upward of 360,000 kwacha each should they win the 2022 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. The Football Association of Zambia President Andrew Kamanga confirmed the development during the Tuesday send-off dinner for the Morocco-bound Copper Queens. The Queens, who departed for North Africa this afternoon, received a bonus of $1,000 US for qualifying to the AFCON. The 2019 COSAFA Women's Championship finalists have been promised $21,500 US as minimum if they win the tournament. Meanwhile, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Art, KWACHA, says government will continue supporting sports activities in the country.
We have also worked out a package for you to motivate you at the tournament. So we will play the first 3 games, and the win bonus has been set at $3,000 per player per game. So those who are good at mathematics, just take note. If you win the first 3 games in the first round, you end up with $9,000. So keep that in mind. The quarterfinal has been set at $3,500. So that is 1 game. You can add that to the $9,000. It will give you $13,500. If you get to the semi-final, you will get $4,000. You can add that. It will give you $16,000. In the final, you will be given $5,000. So, those who are good with mathematics, if you succeed from the beginning to the end, each one of you will be guaranteed $21,500 as the minimum. This has never happened before, but we are happy that government has finally recognized the importance of women's football.
In a week before you leave, I think you would appreciate if we begin to work a little bit faster. So don't worry. You know, we have sometimes little bottlenecks here and there, but you should be rest assured that you have a leadership that is working tirelessly and sleeplessly to ensure that things are efficient and are effective. So that when you go out there and you're playing the game, you shouldn't be worried about milling meal back home. Shouldn't be worried about electricity or anything else. Your focus should be on the game, because everything is taken care of. And we want you to know that that's the leadership you will have, who will take care of every single need that you have.
On that sporting note, we've come to the end of the news. But before we go, top stories once again. The NGOCC assures justice for a deceased gang-raped girl aged 14. Zambia's only surviving member of the first cabinet, SIKOTA WINA, has died. OILSEED stakeholders call for the removal of value-added tax on crude edible oil. In international news, new attacks in Mozambique's Cabo Delgado drive displacement. In sports news, Copper Queens promised an upward of 360,000 kwacha each for the 2022 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day, which is coming from the book of Psalms 37, verse 4. Take delight in the Lord, and He will give you your heart's desires. Thank you once again for watching the news. My name is Jeffrey Ziambo. Good night.